Once you go under contract, most people think the hard part's over. But this is actually when the deal is most likely to fall apart, if you don't know what's coming next. Once a contract is signed, most people think things slow down. They think, okay, we agreed on a price, now we're just waiting for closing. But in reality, this is the moment when everything speeds up. And if you're not prepared for what's coming next, it can feel overwhelming, even with everything going exactly as it should. So today, I want to walk you through what really happens after you go under contract. Not in legal terms and not in contract language, but in the way that buyers and sellers actually experience it here in the Metro Detroit area. And as you listen, I want you to think about this. At which point in the process do you think you'd feel most anxious? Let me know in the comments below. Most people are surprised by the answers. Now, the first thing that happens after the contract is signed is momentum. Showings stop, the listing status changes, and behind the scenes, several moving parts all begin at once. For buyers, this is usually when excitement meets reality. You're thrilled, but now you also are thinking, okay, but what if something goes wrong? For sellers, it's often the opposite. There's a relief followed quickly by a I hope it actually closes. That emotional shift is completely normal. The first real checkpoint most people notice is the inspection period. Not because inspections are bad, but because they introduce uncertainty. This is when the buyer gets their first full picture of the home they're buying, and sellers wait to see how the buyer responds. What's important to understand here is that the inspection rarely produces perfection. They produce information, and information gives everyone choices. I've seen transactions where inspections brought up issues that sounded alarming at first, but ended up being resolved calmly and fairly. I've also seen inspections where nothing major came up and the deal moved forward quietly. What matters most isn't what's found, it's how expectations were set going in. Once inspections are resolved, there's often a brief emotional exhale. And then the attention shifts, because now the question becomes value. This is a stage where buyers sometimes stop thinking emotionally and start thinking financially. And sellers start wondering if the numbers will hold. The appraisal usually doesn't come with drama, but when it does, it can feel like the entire deal is suddenly up for debate. This is when preparation earlier in the process pays off. Strong offers, realistic pricing, and thoughtful strategy tend to make this step feel boring, and boring is exactly what you want here. If you've been through this before, you know waiting can be the hardest part. So let me ask you this. Would you rather hear, everything looks fine, quickly, or wait a little longer, but know it was done thoroughly? There's no wrong answer, but most people don't think about that until they're living it. While value is being confirmed, financing is quietly working in the background. This is where buyers sometimes assume everything is already done, only to realize lenders still need updated documents, verification, and final approval. This stage usually doesn't create headlines, but it absolutely affects timelines. From a seller's perspective, this is where patience matters. And from a buyer's perspective, responsiveness matters. The smoother the communication here, the calmer the entire transaction feels. At the same time, title work is happening. This is one of the least visible parts of the process, but one of the most important. Title ensures that when the keys are handed over, ownership transfers cleanly and legally. Most of the time, this step is quiet and uneventful, which is exactly how you want it to be. Every once in a while, something unexpected pops up, and when it does, this is where experience makes a difference. Problems aren't unusual. Panic is. As closing approaches, something interesting usually happens. Both sides start thinking past the transaction itself. Buyers imagine move-in day, and sellers imagine what's next. This is when final walkthroughs happen. Details are confirmed, and the finish line starts to feel real. And here's what I want you to remember. If the process feels busy, that doesn't mean something is wrong. If there are pauses, that doesn't mean the deal is failing. And if emotions spike at a certain point, it doesn't mean you made a bad decision. It means you're human, and you're going through the process that actually matters. The deals that close smoothly aren't the ones with no steps. They're the ones where each step is understood. So if you're thinking about buying or selling soon, and you're wondering what's normal, what's noise, and what actually deserves your attention, feel free to reach out to me with any questions you might have. You can visit me on my website, leslieemartin.com, or find me on Instagram at leslieemartindtw. I'm Leslie Martin. I look forward to helping you make your next move.